Good evening and welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lepakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Friday, the 11th of March. Indian Prime Minister Modi holds grand roadshow after BJP's massive win in state elections. Pakistanis suffer under high inflation, power tariff hiked again. And youth in India's Kashmir Valley creates art from discarded bones. And now for all the details. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday held a massive roadshow in his home state Gujarat, a day after his Bharatiya Janata Party won elections in 4 out of 5 states with sweeping majority. The poll outcome, especially in the most populous Uttar Pradesh state, is being seen as a barometer for national elections due in 2024.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday held a massive roadshow in Ahmedabad in his home state Gujarat, a day after his BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, won elections in 4 out of 5 states. Standing atop a decorated vehicle, Modi showed victory sign and waved at people, including BJP supporters, during the 10-kilometer-long roadshow as part of his 2-day Gujarat visit. The BJP won regional assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh, Manipur, Goa and Uttarakhand states. The poll outcome, especially in the most populous Uttar Pradesh, is being seen as a barometer for national elections due in 2024. The Prime Minister also addressed a huge gathering of members of the Panchayat Raj, a local self-government of villages in India. Gujarat is slated to hold assembly election later this year. Meanwhile, Bhagwant Mann, the Aam Aadmi Party's chief minister candidate for northern Punjab state, met party's national convener and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in New Delhi on Friday. The Aam Aadmi Party grabbed a landslide victory in Punjab, wiping out the incumbent Congress party. Party leaders have said they are ready to take on the BJP nationally.
Hundreds of Indians who were evacuated from war-torn Ukraine arrived in their home country from Poland on Friday. Most of the citizens who arrived were from Ukrainian city of Sumy that has been witnessing heavy shelling and intense exchange of fire between Russians and Ukrainian forces. Indian Air Force aircraft carrying 213 students arrived at Hindon Air Base in Ghaziabad city, while 2 other special flights landed in capital New Delhi.
An Indian Air Force aircraft from Poland carrying Indian citizens evacuated from northeastern Ukrainian city Sumy landed in India's northern Ghaziabad city on Friday. 213 Indian students arrived at Ghaziabad's Hindon Air Base. Sumy has been witnessing heavy shelling and intense exchange of fire between Russians and Ukrainian forces for the last several days. As part of its Operation Ganga evacuation effort, India has rescued trapped individuals, especially students from numerous other countries since Russia attacked Ukraine 3 weeks ago.
From Sumy, it was a very hazardous travel, but the Indian government and the Ministry of External Affairs and also the Indian Embassy in Ukraine made our travel very much easier because they found the best route from us from Sumy to Poltava.
More flights carrying many Indian students from Sumy also landed at Indira Gandhi International Airport in capital New Delhi on Friday. The students were evacuated from Sumy on a special train and brought back to Poland and flown back to India from there. India has evacuated over 20,000 of its citizens from war-hit Ukraine under Operation Ganga.
जब हम निकल रहे तो खैर सीज़फायर हो गया था तभी हम निकल पाए हैं, बट उससे पहले खराब थे और उसके आने के बाद भी हमने सुना है कि बहुत हालत खराब हो गए हैं. उससे पहले हम बॉम्ब की आवाज़ सुनते थे, शेलिंग होती थी, फायरिंग होती थी, बट जैसे जैसे हमने मैनेज किया वहाँ से और अपने आप को स्ट्रॉन्ग रखा, बस बिलीव किया कि एम्बेसी हमें जल्दी निकालेगी और आज हम यहाँ हैं.
India's Foreign Minister S.J. Shankar on Friday lauded authorities who facilitated the smooth conduct of Operation Ganga. He also thanked Ukraine's neighbours Romania, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia and Moldova for their exceptional support in the evacuation process. Meanwhile, Indian Embassy in Russia in an advisory on Friday said that certain disruption of banking services in Russia and direct flight connectivity from Russia to India is taking place. If students have concerns regarding these aspects and would like to travel back to India, they may consider doing so.
And in news from Pakistan, opposition Jaamiat Ulema-i-Islam-Fazl chief Maulana Fazlur Rahman on Friday called off plans to block highways across Pakistan after parliamentarians and workers of his party who were arrested during a night raid at the parliament lodges were released by the Islamabad police. This came as the parliament is scheduled to vote for a no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Imran Khan later this month.
Pakistan's Jaamiat Ulema-i-Islam-Fazl or JUIF chief Maulana Fazlur Rahman has abandoned plans to block highways across the country after lawmakers and workers of the party who were arrested on Thursday night during a raid at parliament lodges were released by local police on Friday amid massive protests. On Thursday, a heavy contingent of police raided the parliament lodges to expel and arrest members of JUIF who allegedly made it to the high security zone for providing security to opposition lawmakers ahead of a vote on no confidence motion later this month. At least 4 lawmakers were also reportedly arrested along with more than a dozen workers. Rahman condemned the police action and said they baselessly tortured, dragged and arrested elected representatives of the public and presented a false narrative to the public.
कि ये प्रोग्राम उन्होंने बनाया हुआ है जिसकी वजह से हमारे वर्कर आए ताकि अपने पार्लियामेंट के मेंबरान को प्रोटेक्शन दे सके। आज साबित हो गया कि उनका जो प्लान था वो हमारे लोगों को अगवा करने का था।
The joint opposition filed a no-confidence motion against PM Imran Khan in the National Assembly on Tuesday over his mismanagement of the economy and rising inflation. The Speaker is expected to call a session by March 22, while voting on the motion has been scheduled between March 26 and 30.
And more news from Pakistan. Residents in Pakistan's financial capital, Karachi, have lamented they are fed up of the ever-rising inflation in the country. Although Prime Minister Imran Khan announced a cut in electricity prices last week and pledged to freeze the new rates, power tariff was hiked again on Thursday by around 6 rupees per unit. The opposition has termed the move a culmination of cruelty, abuse and brutality.
Residents in Pakistan's Karachi have said they are fed up of soaring inflation that has made life difficult and shattered their faith in Prime Minister Imran Khan. PM Khan last week announced a cut in fuel prices by ₹10 and electricity by ₹5, but that has come as only slight relief as prices of food items have stayed on an upward trajectory. The relief measure is being seen as a populist move amid opposition protests over frequent price hike. Locals said the government has failed to take account of market forces that lead to ever-increasing commodity prices.
इसमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, खाने पीने की चीजें तो कमी नहीं, उधर कोई चेक नहीं करता, पेट्रोल 10 रुपए बढ़ता है तो ऑटोमेटिक चीजें बढ़ा देते हैं, कम होता है तो कम तो नहीं होती, उसमें तो फायदा तो नहीं है, आवाम को उल्टा नुकसान हो रहा है।
ये कपड़े महंगे हो गए, अनाज महंगा हो गया है, सब्जी महंगी हो गई है, उसमें भी कुछ दाम गिराना चाहिए इमरान खान को, गरीब के लिए भी सोचे। पेट्रोल कम हो गया है तो जो चीजें बढ़ाई हुई है पेट्रोल के हिसाब से वो कम नहीं हुई।
In the latest on Thursday, power tariff was again hiked across Pakistan by ₹5.94 per unit. Opposition PMLN party president Shehbaz Sharif termed the move a U-turn by Imran Khan, who had pledged to freeze the new rates until the next budget in June. Sharif said it is the culmination of cruelty, abuse and brutality on the public, already under pressure due to soaring inflation.
Moving on, US lawmaker Scott Perry has introduced a bill in the Congress that seeks to designate Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism. The bill has now been referred to the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs. The proposed sanctions include restrictions on foreign assistance and miscellaneous financial and other restrictions.
US lawmaker Scott Perry this week introduced a bill titled Stopping Pakistani Terror Act in the Congress that seeks to designate Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism. The bill tabled in the House of Representatives on March 8 read to provide for the designation of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism and for other purposes. The bill has been referred to the Committee on Foreign Affairs. The main categories of sanctions include restrictions on US foreign assistance, a ban on defense exports and sales, financial transactions and others. The development comes days after the global terror financing watchdog FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, retained Islamabad on the grey list over inadequate actions on probing and prosecuting terrorists. FATF on March 5 also directed Pakistan to take stringent measures to crack down on UN-designated terrorist groups and stop terror financing.
Sri Lanka is mourning the death of its famous Indian tusker, Nadungamuwa Raja, which died in the early hours of Monday following a brief illness and was named a national treasure by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. 69-year-old Raja was known widely as the towering tusker that carried the casket containing the sacred tooth relic at the Parahera festival or annual pageant in Kandy district. He was considered to be the largest tamed elephant in Asia and was 10.5 feet tall. Scores of people, including children and Buddhist priests, bid adieu to Raja, offering prayers at the site where it was laid. Raja was born in India and had been gifted to Sri Lanka by an Indian prince. Meanwhile, authorities said that Raja's remains will be stuffed and preserved for posterity. Elephants are considered as sacred animals in Sri Lanka and often participate in religious ceremonies and rituals. And a 22-year-old artist in India's Jammu and Kashmir has been creating beautiful art pieces, including intrinsic ornaments and articles of house decor out of discarded animal bones. He believes his art can help decrease use of metals, which have adverse effects on the environment. Take a look.
22-year-old student and a bone carver Aziz-ul-Rahman from India's Jammu and Kashmir has been creating unique art pieces from scrap bones. Although Aziz has always been interested in art, he says he developed this craft 2 years ago. As the intake of meat consumption is high in Kashmir amid cold weather, Aziz says he finds an easy supply of bones and skulls from butchers free of cost and carves intrinsic ornaments, knives and other house decors out of them. Aziz believes his art can help preserve the traditional bone craft of Kashmir and to lower metal pollution and create a healthier and safer environment.
ये हड्डियाँ हम फेंकते, मतलब इनका मीट हम खा के फेंकते फिर अगर इन हड्डियों को हम अच्छे से यूज़ करें बिना फेंके हम इसके चीज़ें बना सकते हैं जैसे कि ऑर्नामेंट्स बना सकते हैं डेकोरेटिव पीसेस बना सकते हैं इससे क्या होगा कि जो मतलब एग्जॉस्टिबल रिसोर्सेज है जैसे कि मेटल्स है बाकी चीज़ें हैं मतलब उन पे कम असर पड़ेगा डेली इनटेक जो मीट का है वो बहुत है यहाँ पे तो हड्डियाँ भी होंगी उसके साथ अगर हम हड्डियों को अच्छे से यूटिलाइज करें तो इसका मतलब ब्रॉडर स्कोप मिल सकता है यहाँ पे.
To decorate these art pieces, Aziz uses the pyrography technique, free-handed art of decorating with burn marks resulting from the control application over heated objects such as a poker. He uses hand tools to make his art pieces such as pliers, sandpaper and hand saw.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. Indian Prime Minister Modi holds grand roadshow after BJP's massive win in state elections. Pakistanis suffer under high inflation, power tariff hiked again. And youth in India's Kashmir Valley creates art from discarded bones. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time next week. Have a great weekend. Good night.